Captain Jiwan sat in her command chair, looking at the star charts on her screen. The cargo ship Fortune's Edge moved slowly through space toward 3 asteroids that looked promising for mining. Her crew had been doing this kind of work for 5 years now. It was boring but paid well. "Captain, we're getting close to the target zone," said Hana from the communications desk. She was young and always excited about new places, even empty space with floating rocks. "Good. Minho, how are our engines?" Jiwan asked. "Running smooth as always," Minho replied from his engineering station. "The fusion drive is working perfectly. We should reach the asteroids in 2 hours." Taewon, their security officer, was cleaning, his sidearm out of habit. There was rarely any trouble on these mining runs, but he'd like to stay ready. "Captain, should I run the usual security checks when we arrive?" "Standard procedure," Jiwan nodded. She had learned that following the rules kept everyone safe and the company happy. The Fortune's Edge was not a big ship, but it was tough and reliable. It carried mining equipment, processing machines, and enough supplies for a month-long operation. Earth's Colonial Mining Corporation had sent them to survey this sector because long-range scans showed valuable minerals. What Jiwan did not know was that her ship had just crossed into space controlled by the Velkari Empire. The Velkari had ruled this part of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were proud warriors who believed that any ship entering their territory without permission was declaring war. High Commander Thexval stood on the bridge of his warship, the Crimson Talon. His scales were dark red and his forearms moved quickly as he studied the sensor readings. "What kind of ship is this?" he asked his crew. "Unknown design, Commander," replied his sensor officer. "The energy signature is very strange. It appears to be using some kind of advanced stealth technology we have never seen before." Thexval's eyes narrowed. The human ship's simple fusion drive looked completely alien to the Velkari, who used complex gravity manipulators for their ships. To them, the steady, clean energy output looked like sophisticated hiding technology. "How many ships are with it?" Thexval demanded. "Just one, sir. But that might be what they want us to think." On the Fortune's Edge, Jiwan was having coffee when Hana called out, "Captain, I'm getting a signal from something. It's weird." "Put it on speaker," Jiwan said, setting down her cup. A harsh, growling voice filled the bridge. The translation software worked hard to make sense of the alien language. "Unknown vessel, you have entered sacred Velkari space without permission. State your intentions or be destroyed." Jiwan blinked. This was new. Usually the only people they met in space were other human miners or traders. "Hana, send back a standard first contact message. Use the diplomatic protocols." Hana's fingers moved over her controls. "Greetings to the Velkari people. We are peaceful explorers from Earth. We are here to conduct mineral surveys and would like to know about local mining regulations. We are happy to pay any reasonable licensing fees." On the Crimson Talon, Thexval stared at his communication officer. They want to pay licensing fees?" "Yes, Commander. They also asked about mining regulations." Thexval had fought hundreds of battles. He had conquered star systems and destroyed entire fleets. But no enemy had ever responded to his threats by asking about paperwork. "Are they mocking us?" asked his weapons officer. I do not know," Thexval admitted. In 3,000 years of Velkari history, no one had ever responded to Imperial threats with polite business questions. Jiwan received another message. This time the alien voice sounded confused. You wish to mine in our territory?" "If that's okay with you folks," Jiwan replied through Hana. "We're happy to work within your local laws. Do you have an administrative office we should contact? We have all our Earth permits, but we know different places have different rules." The Fortune's Edge reached the first asteroid. Minho deployed their mining drones without any worry. The small machines began scanning the rock for valuable metals. To him, this was just another day at work. But to the Velkari watching from their warship, the human mining drones looked like advanced war machines. The way they moved and scanned seemed far too sophisticated for simple mining tools. "Commander," his tactical officer whispered, "those are not mining drones. Look at their sensor arrays. They are mapping our ship's weak points. Thexval felt his blood run cold. The humans were not just ignoring his threats. They were studying his warship while pretending to mine asteroids. Should we attack? Asked his weapons officer. No, Thexval said slowly. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have done it already. They are playing some kind of game. On the Fortune's Edge, Taiwan was watching the alien ship through their cameras. Captain, that's a big ship. Looks like a warship of some kind. Should I be worried? Nah, Jiwon said, reading her mining reports. They seem friendly enough. Probably just local security doing their job. Minho, how's the first asteroid looking? Great. Lots of rare metals. This is going to be a profitable trip. Jiwon smiled. She loved it when everything went according to plan. The Fortune's Edge moved to the second asteroid. Their mining drones found even more valuable materials. Jiwon sent another message to the Velkari ship. Thanks for letting us work here. The minerals are excellent quality. Will you folks be staying to observe our operations? We're happy to share our safety protocols. Thexval had to sit down. The humans were offering to share their safety protocols, which he assumed meant their military tactics. They were being so confident that they would teach him how they planned to destroy his ship. Commander, what are your orders? Asked his second-in-command. Send a message to Imperial Command. Tell them we have encountered something unusual. What? Should I tell them? Thexval looked at the human ship, which was now calmly mining the third asteroid. The humans had entered sacred Velkari space, ignored his threats, and started industrial operations while offering to pay taxes and share military information. It was the strangest invasion he had ever seen. Tell them that either we are dealing with the most subtle psychological warfare specialists in the galaxy, or we have found beings so powerful that they do not even consider us a threat. As the Fortune's Edge finished its survey work, Jiwon was already planning their next mining operation. She had no idea that she had just claimed territory that two Velkari noble houses had been fighting over for 300 years. To her, it had been a normal day at work, but in the Velkari Empire, emergency meetings were being called. The humans had arrived, and no one knew what to do about them. Admiral Kyung read Captain Jiwon's report while his ship, the Harmony Dawn, traveled toward the new sector. The report was typical for a mining survey. Good mineral deposits, friendly local contact, standard first contact protocols followed. Nothing unusual. Yuna, what do you think about these Velkari people? He asked the xenobiologist sitting across from him in the ship's small meeting room. Dr. Yuna looked up from her tablet, where she was reading the translated messages. They seem very formal. Military culture, probably. The language patterns suggest a hierarchical society. Should be interesting to study. Dongyun, their trade negotiator, was more practical. Did you see what they said about their sacred space? That usually means they have strong territorial beliefs. We'll need to be respectful. About their customs? Admiral Kyung nodded. He had handled dozens of first contact situations. Most went smoothly when you followed basic diplomatic rules. Be polite, respect local customs, and offer fair trade agreements. The Harmony Dawn was larger than Captain Jiwon's mining ship, but it was still small compared to military vessels. It carried scientific equipment, cultural analysis tools, and gifts for new species they might meet. Admiral Kyung believed in peaceful contact above all else. What he did not know was that the entire Velkari Empire was in emergency session because of his approaching ship, High Commander. Thexval stood before the Imperial Council in the Great Throne Room on Velkari Prime. The room was huge, with golden walls covered in the battle flags of conquered worlds. 12 Velkari nobles sat on crystal thrones, their scales gleaming under the bright lights. Explain this human threat, demanded Empress Vixera, her voice echoing through the chamber. She was ancient even by Velkari standards, having ruled for 800 years. Your Imperial Majesty, Thexval began carefully, the humans entered our space without permission. When I threatened to destroy them, they asked about mining permits. Mining permits? Repeated Lord Zekthon, his head frills turning bright orange with confusion. Yes, my lord. They also offered to pay licensing fees and share their safety protocols. The council members looked at each other. In 3,000 years of Velkari expansion, no enemy had ever responded to Imperial threats by offering to fill out paperwork. "Are they mocking our power?" asked General Hicksville. "I do not think so," Thexval replied. "They seemed genuinely interested in following our laws. They called us friendly and thanked us for letting them work in our space." Empress Vixara leaned forward on her throne. "And now another ship approaches?" "Yes, Your Majesty. A larger vessel. Our intelligence suggests it carries their diplomatic representatives." "Prepare our finest negotiators," the Empress decided. "If these humans wish to play diplomatic games, we shall show them the full power of Velkari diplomacy." Admiral Kyung's ship arrived at the coordinates Captain Jiwon had provided. The Velkari warship was still there, much larger than expected. Kyung whistled softly when he saw it on his view screen. "That's impressive," he said to his crew. "They must be the local system defense force. Hana, send them a standard diplomatic greeting." Hana, who had transferred from Jiwon's ship to help with communications, sent the message. "Greetings to the Velkari Defense Force. We are representatives of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. We come in peace to establish friendly relations with your people." On the Velkari flagship, High Commander Thexval received the message with growing alarm. The humans called his battle fleet a defense force as if it were nothing special. Worse, they said they represented something called the Earth Diplomatic Corps, which suggested their government was much larger than one world, and we. "A response," he told his communications officer. "Ask them about their territorial extent." Admiral Kyung received the Velkari question and smiled. They wanted to know about human space. That was a good sign. It meant they were interested in formal relations. "Tell them we represent several dozen inhabited systems in this region," he said. "We're always interested in meeting our neighbors." When this message reached the Velkari flagship, the bridge went silent. Several dozen inhabited systems? The Velkari Empire controlled 43 star systems and considered itself the dominant power in this part of the galaxy. "Sir," whispered the navigation officer, "if they have several dozen systems, their territory might be larger than ours." Thexval felt his heart skip a beat. The humans had casually mentioned controlling more space than the mighty Velkari Empire. Dr. Yuna was excited as the Harmony Dawn approached the Velkari ship. "Look at their architecture," she said, pointing to the alien vessel on her screen. "Very geometric, lots of sharp angles. Definitely a warrior culture, but with strong artistic elements. The way they arrange their weapons arrays actually creates pleasant visual patterns. Their ship design is fascinating," added Donghyun. "Very advanced, but it seems focused on showing power rather than efficiency. Classic imperial psychology. They want others to know how strong they are." Admiral Kyung listened to his experts and made mental notes. The Velkari sounded like a typical proud warrior species. He had dealt with several similar cultures. You know, key was to treat them with respect while being clear about human intentions. "Hana, ask if we can arrange a face-to-face meeting, somewhere neutral, maybe on an asteroid." The Velkari agreed to meet, but they chose their own ship as the location. Admiral Kyung did not mind. It showed they wanted to appear strong, which was normal for warrior cultures. When Admiral Kyung, Yuna, and Donghyun teleported aboard the Velkari flagship, they were impressed by the elegant decorations and formal atmosphere. High Commander Thexval met them in a ceremonial chamber with 12 honor guards. "Welcome aboard the Crimson Talon," Thexval said in carefully translated human language. "Thank you for your hospitality," Admiral Kyung replied. "Your ship is beautiful. The craftsmanship is excellent." Thexval was taken aback. Human military leaders were complimenting his ship's decoration instead of trying to intimidate him. "We understand you have questions about our presence in your space," Admiral Kyung continued. "We're here to establish friendly relations and discuss possible trade agreements." "Trade agreements?" Thexval repeated. "Certainly. We've found that mutual trade benefits everyone. We have technologies and resources that might interest you, and I'm sure you have things that would benefit our colonies." Dr. Yuna was taking notes on her tablet, studying Velkari body language and social customs. She found their formal behavior charming and wrote detailed observations about their cultural practices. Dong-hyun opened his briefcase and pulled out sample trade goods, advanced computer components, medical supplies, and industrial equipment. These are examples of human manufacturing, he explained. We'd be happy to discuss exchange rates and trade volumes. Thexval looked at the human trade samples. His ship's science officer had already scanned them and reported that the technology was centuries ahead of anything the Velkari Empire possessed. Your manufacturing capabilities are impressive, Thexval said carefully. Oh, this is just standard stuff, Dong-hyun replied cheerfully. Nothing special. Every human colony produces similar goods. Every human colony. Thexval realized that what these humans considered standard technology was more advanced than the Velkari Empire's greatest achievements. Admiral Kyung smiled and leaned forward. We'd love to learn more about your culture and government. Perhaps we could arrange for a cultural exchange program. Our anthropologists are always excited to study new civilizations. The word study made Thexval's blood run cold. The humans wanted to study the Velkari Empire the same way scientists studied primitive species. We would need to discuss this with our government, he managed to say. Of course, take all the time you need, Admiral Kyung said. We're not in any hurry. We'll just set up a small research station in the area while we wait for your decision. A research station in Velkari space, as if they owned it. As the meeting ended, Admiral Kyung felt pleased with the first contact. The Velkari seemed like decent people, just a bit formal. He was confident they could work out a good relationship. But High Commander Thexval returned to his bridge with a terrible understanding. The humans were not invading the Velkari Empire. They were absorbing it so casually that they did not even realize they were doing it. Dr. Somin arrived on the research station 3 weeks later, eager to begin her anthropological work. The small space station had been built quickly in orbit around the largest asteroid in the mining zone. To her, it was a perfect base for studying what Earth's academic community was calling a fascinating hierarchical warrior culture. She set up her equipment in a small laboratory and began analyzing the cultural data Admiral Kyung had collected. The Velkari social structure was complex and interesting, with clear military rankings and elaborate ceremonies. Somin had studied dozens of warrior cultures throughout human space, and the Velkari fit familiar patterns. This is wonderful material, she told her research partner, Engineer Wu, as they worked in the station's main laboratory. Look at these social hierarchies. They have at least 12 distinct military ranks, each with specific ceremonial duties. Wu looked up from the communication array he was repairing. Sounds complicated. Do they need all those ranks for anything practical? Probably not, Somin laughed. Most warrior cultures develop complex rankings to maintain social order. It's quite common in civilizations that haven't developed effective democratic institutions. What Dr. Somin did not realize was that she was discussing the governmental structure of a galactic empire that controlled 43 star systems and commanded fleets of thousands of warships. Engineer Wu finished his repairs and frowned at the Velkari communication equipment they had been given to study. This is really old technology, he muttered. I mean, it works, but it's incredibly inefficient. Can you fix it? Somin asked absently, focused on her cultural notes. Fix it? I can completely rebuild it. This design wastes about 60% of its power output. Give me a day and I'll have it running properly. Wu began modifying the Velkari communication device, not knowing that it was one of their most advanced military communication systems. He worked with the casual expertise of someone who had been maintaining interstellar communication networks for 15 years. On the Velkari flagship, the communication officer stared at his instruments in shock. Commander, the human research station just sent us a signal. What kind of signal? High Commander Thexval asked. It's using our own communication system, but the clarity is perfect. The range has increased by 400%, and the power consumption has dropped to almost nothing. Thexval felt a familiar chill. The humans had taken their advanced military technology and casually improved it in a single day. Meanwhile, Captain Sunwoo's exploration ship, the New Horizon, had detected something interesting on the edge of the system. Long-range sensors showed what appeared to be artificial structures on a planet in the neighboring star system. "Looks like some kind of ancient monument complex," she reported to her science officer, Bowman. "The architecture is similar to the Velkari ships, but much larger and older." "Should we investigate?" Bowman asked, already preparing the ship's archaeological equipment. "Definitely. Send a message back to Earth Command. Tell them we've found what looks like an interesting historical site, probably built by the same species as our new friends." The New Horizon changed course toward what Captain Sunwoo thought were ancient ruins. She had no idea she was approaching Velkari Prime, the Imperial capital and the most heavily defended planet in Velkari space. On Velkari Prime, Fleet Admiral Kexthor received emergency reports from across the Empire. Human ships were appearing everywhere, always with polite messages about research and cultural studies. The humans asked permission for everything, but they seemed to assume permission would be granted. "They want to study our capital city," he reported to Empress Vixara in the throne room. "They call it an archaeological site of significant historical interest." "Archaeology?" the Empress repeated, her voice dangerously quiet. "Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. They wish to conduct what they call non-invasive historical research." The Velkari leadership sat in stunned silence. The humans wanted to study their living capital city like it was an ancient ruin. Dr. Soman continued her research, completely unaware of the crisis she was causing. She sent regular reports back to Earth's Anthropological Institute, describing the Velkari as a proud warrior culture with fascinating military traditions and strong tribal loyalties that have prevented them from developing larger governmental structures. Her reports recommended that human diplomats be patient with Velkari territorial instincts and suggested that careful cultural guidance might help them develop more effective leadership systems. Earth's diplomatic corps read these reports and nodded knowingly. They had helped dozens of smaller civilizations modernize their governments and join the human trade network. The Velkari seemed like another species that could benefit from friendly, human assistance. Engineer Wu had finished improving the Velkari communication system and moved on to their power generators. "Salmon, look at this," he called out. "Their power systems are incredibly wasteful. They're using some kind of crude fusion setup that loses most of its energy as heat." "Can you help them with that?" Salmon asked, not looking up from her notes. "About Velkari religious ceremonies." "Sure, it's easy. I'll just reroute their power flows and upgrade their containment systems. Should increase their efficiency by about 300%. Wu worked through the night, enjoying the technical challenge. He had always liked fixing broken equipment, and the Velkari power systems were definitely broken by human standards. When the Velkari engineers saw what Wu had done to their power grid, they called an emergency meeting. The human had casually redesigned their entire energy infrastructure in 8 hours, creating improvements that their best scientists had said were impossible. "How did he do this?" demanded Chief Engineer Vixkun, staring at the power output readings. "We do not know," his assistant replied. "He used techniques our computers cannot even analyze." Back on the research station, Captain Sunwoo was having a friendly conversation with High Commander Thexval about her archaeological survey of his home planet. "We'll be very careful," she promised. "We use only passive scanners for initial surveys, no digging or sample collection without permission. We just want to document the architectural evolution of your species." "You want to document our architectural evolution?" Thexval asked weakly. "Oh yes, it's fascinating stuff. The way your building techniques developed over time tells us a lot about your social development. We can learn about your cultural values, technological progress, population growth patterns. It's like reading the story of your entire civilization." Thexval realized that the humans wanted to analyze his people's entire history like they were studying extinct species. "We have similar ruins on many worlds throughout human space," Captain Sunwoo continued cheerfully. "Most species go through similar development patterns. It's amazing how universal certain cultural trends are. Most species. Throughout human space." Thexval understood that the humans had been studying and cataloging civilizations across their vast territory for a long time. Dr. Somin finished her preliminary cultural analysis, and prepared to send her recommendations to Earth's diplomatic corps. Her report concluded that the Velkari were a small but proud warrior culture that could benefit from integration into larger galactic civilization, and recommended patient guidance toward more effective governmental structures. She suggested that the Velkari might be good candidates for junior partnership status in human space, which would give them access to advanced technology and peaceful trade opportunities while allowing them to maintain their cultural identity. Engineer Wu packed up his tools, satisfied with his work improving Velkari technology. Not bad for a week's work, he told Soman. Their communication and power systems should work much better now. That's great, Soman replied, focused on her final report. I'm sure they'll appreciate the help. Neither of them realized that they had just casually demonstrated technological superiority over a galactic empire. Wu thought he was helping local engineers with basic maintenance problems. Soman thought she was studying a small regional culture. But across Velkari space, emergency meetings continued as the leadership tried to understand what was happening to them. The humans treated the mighty Velkari Empire like a minor local government that needed friendly assistance. And the most terrifying part was that the humans seemed genuinely nice about it. They were not conquerors or invaders. They were helpful neighbors who wanted to share technology and culture. The Velkari Empire was being absorbed by people who thought they were just being polite. Ambassador Jihoon stepped off the transport shuttle onto the Velkari space station with a friendly smile and a briefcase full of legal documents. He was Earth's senior diplomatic representative for the Outer Rim sectors, and he had handled dozens of trade negotiations with new species. Good morning, he said to the nervous Velkari officials who met him at the airlock. I'm here to finalize the cultural exchange agreements we discussed. I hope we can work out something beneficial for everyone. Highwire. Commander Thexval led the Velkari delegation. He looked tired and worried. 3 months of dealing with humans had aged him considerably. Welcome, Ambassador Jihoon. We are honored by your visit. The meeting room was decorated with Velkari battle flags and portraits of their greatest military leaders. Jihoon admired them politely before sitting down at the negotiation table. Beautiful artwork, he commented. Your people have a rich military tradition. Very impressive. Thexval did not know how to respond to compliments from someone whose civilization made his empire look like children playing with toy weapons. General Hyun, Jihoon's military liaison, set up her tablet and began reviewing security protocols. She was a practical woman who believed in clear communication about expectations and responsibilities. Before we begin formal negotiations, she said, I should explain our standard security arrangements for trade partners. We want you to understand what protection you'll have as part of the Seoul Trade Cooperative. Protection? Asked Fleet Admiral Kexthor, who had arrived from Velkari Prime for the meeting. Certainly, General Hyun replied, pulling up defensive statistics on her tablet. All trade partners receive full security guarantees. We maintain patrol fleets in partner territories, early warning systems, and rapid response capabilities. She showed them charts and numbers that made the Velkari military leaders feel sick. The humans' standard security protocols included more ships than the entire Velkari fleet, weapons technologies that made their best warships obsolete, and detection systems that could monitor entire star systems. This is just standard? Fleet Admiral Kexthor asked weakly. Oh yes, basic stuff, General Hyun said. We learned long ago that good security makes trade relationships work better. Everyone feels more comfortable when they know they're protected. Ambassador Jihoon opened his briefcase and pulled out the partnership agreements. Now, the Seoul Trade Cooperative is pretty flexible. We're not interested in controlling anyone's internal affairs. We just want to establish fair trade, shared technology access, and mutual defense agreements. He slid the documents across the table. You'll notice that we're offering junior partnership status, which gives you access to all cooperative benefits while letting you maintain full cultural autonomy. Thexval looked at the documents and felt his heart sink. Junior partnership meant that the Velkari Empire would become a minor administrative zone in human space. What does this mean for our government? He asked carefully. No changes at all to your local government, Jihoon assured him. You keep all your current leaders and laws. We just coordinate trade, defense, and technology sharing at the regional level. Dr. Minjay had been working quietly in her laboratory on the research station, analyzing Velkari biological samples that Dr. Somin had collected. As a xenobiologist, she was fascinated by the way different species adapted to their environments. Her research had produced some interesting results, which she published in a routine scientific paper titled Adaptive Physiological Responses in Velkari Subject Population. The paper discussed several genetic modifications that could improve Velkari health, increase their lifespan, and enhance their physical capabilities. To Minjay, it was basic medical research. Every human colony had access to similar genetic therapies, and she thought the Velkari might be interested in the medical applications. When Velkari scientists read her paper, they realized that the humans understood their biology better than they did. The genetic modifications Minjay suggested so casually would require decades of research using their most advanced laboratories. She wrote this in 3 weeks, whispered Chief Medical Officer Hicksmell to his research team. 3 weeks of casual study, and she has solved problems our medical scientists have worked on for centuries. Meanwhile, Commander Gi-hyun arrived at the Velkari space station with a cargo ship full of what Earth Command called basic defensive upgrades. He was a friendly engineer who enjoyed helping other species improve their technology. I brought some standard defensive systems, he explained to the Velkari military commanders. Nothing fancy, just basic shield generators, improved weapons targeting, and some sensor upgrades. He began unloading equipment that the Velkari immediately recognized as being far superior to their best military technology. "This is basic?" asked Weapons Master Zixcourt, examining a shield generator that was smaller and more powerful than anything in the Velkari arsenal. "Sure," Gi-hyun replied. "Every human cargo ship carries this kind of defensive equipment. We learned that good. Shields prevent most problems before they start." He spent the afternoon installing the upgrades on a Velkari warship, explaining each system as he worked. The Velkari crew watched in amazement as their ship's defensive capabilities increased by several 100%. "Your old targeting system was really inefficient," Gi-hyun mentioned while calibrating their new weapons array. "This upgrade should improve your accuracy by about 400%. Plus, it uses less power and generates less heat." The Velkari weapons officers looked at each other in despair. Their most advanced warship had just been casually upgraded by a human cargo engineer, using equipment he considered basic. Back in the negotiation room, Ambassador Ji-hoon was explaining the benefits of joining the Seoul Trade Cooperative. "You'll have access to our medical technology, industrial systems, educational networks, and transportation infrastructure, plus full trade rights with all cooperative members." "How many members are there?" asked Thexval. "Let's see." Ji-hoon consulted his tablet. "Currently about 230 species across roughly 1,500 star systems. It's grown quite a bit in the last few years. 230 species, 1,500 star systems." The Velkari leadership finally understood the true scope of what they were dealing with. The Seoul Trade Cooperative was not just larger than the Velkari Empire. It was larger than everything the Velkari had ever imagined. "Of course, membership is completely voluntary," Ji-hoon continued. "We never pressure anyone to join. But most species find that cooperative membership improves their quality of life significantly," General Haeun added. "The security benefits alone are worth it. We haven't had a major conflict in cooperative space for over 50 years. When everyone is trading and working together, there's no reason to fight." Fleet Admiral Kexthor realized that the humans were not conquering the Velkari Empire. They were offering to absorb it into something so vast and powerful that the Empire would simply disappear. Dr. Minji's research had been forwarded to human medical centers throughout the region, and several hospitals had already offered to provide the genetic therapies she had identified to any Velkari who wanted them. "It's all free, of course," she explained to the Velkari medical team. "Basic healthcare is available to everyone in cooperative space. We've found that healthy populations are more productive and happier." Commander Gi-hyun finished his defensive upgrades and offered to return next month with improved engine systems. "Your ships are really well built," he told the Velkari engineers. With better engines, they could probably match the performance of standard human vessels. Standard human vessels. The Velkari military leaders realized that their most powerful warships were being compared to basic civilian craft. Ambassador Jihoon completed his presentation and sat back with a satisfied smile. So, what do you think? Are you interested in joining the cooperative? High Commander Thexaval looked at his fellow Velkari leaders. They had spent 3,000 years building an empire that controlled 43 star systems. Now they were being offered junior membership in an organization that controlled 1,500 systems and treated their greatest military achievements as quaint historical curiosities. We will need to discuss this with our Empress, Thexaval said finally. Take all the time you need, Jihoon replied cheerfully. There's no rush. The offer will stay open as long as you want. As the humans packed up their equipment and prepared to leave, the Velkari leadership sat in stunned silence. They had been conquered by people who thought they were just being neighborly. The most terrifying part was that the humans genuinely seemed to want what was best for the Velkari people. They were not cruel invaders or greedy exploiters. They were helpful neighbors who wanted to share their advanced civilization, and that somehow made everything worse. Director Jinho sat at his desk in the administrative center of what used to be the Velkari Empire, reviewing routine paperwork for Integration Protocol 7A. To him, this was just another day managing the smooth transition of a small stellar nation into humanity's growing cooperative network. The process had taken 6 months, which was actually quite fast compared to some integrations. The Velkari leadership had been very cooperative once they understood the benefits of joining the Soul Trade Cooperative. Yunbi, how are the citizenship processing centers running? He asked his assistant coordinator. Coordinator Yunbi looked up from her tablet, where she was tracking the progress of former Velkari citizens adapting to their new status as cooperative members. Very smoothly, Director. Most of the population has completed basic citizenship requirements. They seem happy with the improved living standards. Good. Any problems with the cultural transition program? Nothing major. Some of the older military officers needed extra time to understand their new roles, but they're adjusting well. The educational upgrades are very popular, especially the medical and engineering programs. Director Jinho nodded approvingly. The integration had gone better than expected. Administrative Sector 47, as the former Velkari Empire was now known, had become one of the more successful recent additions to cooperative space. Thexaval, who now held the title of Local Cultural Liaison, walked into the administrative center, carrying reports from the regional governors. His new job involved helping former imperial citizens understand cooperative policies and maintaining cultural traditions that were compatible with membership requirements. Director Jinho, he said, with a respectful nod. The monthly regional reports. Thank you, Thexaval. How are things going in the outer systems? Better than expected, Thexaval admitted. The new trade routes have increased prosperity significantly. The medical centers are extremely popular, and the educational exchange programs have generated considerable interest. Thexaval had adapted to his new role more successfully than anyone had predicted. He discovered that being a cultural liaison gave him more real influence over Velkari welfare than he had ever possessed as a military commander in the old empire. Director Jinho reviewed the reports with satisfaction. Economic indicators were up, health statistics were improving, and civil order was excellent. The integration metrics were all positive. Any requests from the regional governors? He asked. 2 systems have requested additional industrial development assistance, Thexaval replied, and several worlds want expanded access to the university network. Standard requests. I'll approve the industrial assistance and forward the university applications to the education department. What had once been life or death decisions for entire star systems were now routine administrative matters that Director Jinho handled with casual efficiency. Captain Sangwoo commanded the patrol ship Peaceful Journey, maintaining security throughout Administrative Sector 47. His ship was not particularly large or heavily armed by human standards, but it represented more military power than the old Velkari Empire had ever possessed. Captain, we're receiving a distress signal from the border region. reported his communications officer Isul. What's the problem? Sang-woo asked, already changing course toward the signal. Looks like a territorial dispute between two non-cooperative species. They're fighting over mining rights in the Kepler 442 system. Sang-woo sighed. These kinds of conflicts had been common before the cooperative expanded into this region. Now they seemed pointless and wasteful. The peaceful journey arrived at the contested system to find two small fleets facing each other over a disputed asteroid field. Both species had been enemies of the old Velkari Empire, and they were continuing their ancient conflicts. This is Captain Sang-woo of the Sol Cooperative patrol ship Peaceful Journey, he broadcast to both fleets. We've received reports of a conflict in this system. Can we help resolve this dispute peacefully? The two alien fleets suddenly forgot their differences and fled in opposite directions. Neither species wanted to fight anywhere near human space. They had seen what happened to the mighty Velkari Empire when humans decided to be helpful. Well, that was easy, Isil commented. Usually, Sang-woo replied. Most conflicts stop being worth it when people realize they're fighting next to cooperative territory. The Peaceful Journey continued its patrol, a visible reminder that this region was now under human protection. Peace had become the default condition simply because no one wanted to attract cooperative attention. Explorer Minji was studying sensor readings from the edge of Administrative Sector 47 when she detected something interesting. Her deep space survey ship, the Curiosity's Edge, had found energy signatures that suggested another advanced civilization. Looks like we have neighbors, she told her science officer Young-ho. Big energy outputs from the Delta 7 region. Probably. Another spacefaring species. Should we investigate? Young-ho asked, already preparing the survey equipment. Definitely. Send a message back to Sector Command. Tell them we've found another interesting local civilization worth investigating. The message reached Director Jin-ho's desk the next morning, filed under Routine First Contact Opportunities. He read it while drinking his coffee and made a note to assign a diplomatic team to the Delta 7 region. He had no idea that Minji had just detected the Zephyrian Confederation, a military alliance of 12 species that controlled over 60 star systems and considered themselves the dominant power in their region. The Zephyrians had been watching human expansion with growing alarm. They had seen the Velkari Empire, their greatest regional rival, simply disappear into something called Administrative Sector 47. Intelligence reports suggested that the humans had absorbed the Velkari so completely that most former Imperial citizens were now happier than they had ever been under their old government. What do we do when they arrive? Asked Prime Admiral Veltar at the Confederation's Emergency Military Council. We could try to fight them, suggested War Leader Coxhun without much conviction. With what? Replied Intelligence Chief Nixvel. The Velkari had more ships than we do, and the humans made them irrelevant without firing a shot. Maybe we should just surrender immediately, suggested Diplomatic Minister Hexton. The former Velkari citizens seemed to be doing well. On Administrative Sector 47, former Empress Vixara was attending a regional cultural festival in her new role as Historical Preservation Coordinator. The festival celebrated both traditional Velkari customs and new cooperative traditions that had developed during the integration. She watched young Velkari citizens learning human languages and technologies while maintaining their cultural identity. The old empire had been rigid and hierarchical. The cooperative was flexible and inclusive. Your Majesty, said a young Velkari engineer who was studying at a human university, I wanted to thank you for agreeing to join the cooperative. I could never have gotten this education under the old system. Vixara smiled. She heard similar comments frequently. The cooperative provided opportunities that the empire had never offered to ordinary citizens. The decision was not difficult, she replied. When someone offers you a better life for your people, refusing would be foolish. The festival continued around them, mixing ancient Velkari traditions with new cooperative customs. Children played games that combined elements from dozens of species. Artists created works that blended multiple cultural styles. Director Jin-ho received weekly reports from festivals like this throughout Administrative Sector 47. The cultural integration was proceeding smoothly, maintaining diversity while building Unity. As evening fell over the festival, Coordinator Yunbi prepared her monthly summary report for Earth Command. Administrative Sector 47 was performing above expectations in all categories. Economic growth was strong, social stability was excellent, and citizen satisfaction ratings were the highest in the region. The report would be filed with hundreds of similar reports from cooperative sectors throughout human space. Earth Command would note the success and continue expanding peaceful trade relationships with new species. Explorer Minji's ship approached the edge of Zephyrian space, preparing to make first contact with another interesting local civilization. She had no idea that her arrival would trigger another emergency session among species who had been watching human expansion with growing dread. The pattern would repeat itself. Humans would arrive with friendly greetings and offers of beneficial trade relationships. They would casually demonstrate technologies and capabilities that made entire galactic powers obsolete, and eventually another region of space would discover that being absorbed by humanity was not conquest. It was upgrade. Director Jinho finished his evening paperwork and prepared to go home. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. As humanity continued its peaceful expansion across the galaxy, he had no idea that his routine administrative work was reshaping galactic civilization one helpful gesture at a time.